Good afternoon, Warrior staff members and all of our other guests who have joined us today. I'm the Outreach and Ambassador Program Manager, Melissa Weiss. And so I would like to go ahead and turn the floor over to our host that will host this segment with us, Chief Master Sergeant Jason David. But just a little bit about me. Prior to retiring a couple of years ago, I served 24 years in medical admin, serving our warriors. And I did a lot of case management during this role, and it's similar to what our RCCs and our non-medical care managers were doing. And a lot of times those duties overlapped with what I was doing. And during that time, with my caseload that I was supporting, I saw a lot of lack in support from some of their leadership. And so that completely broke my heart. And so I truly feel very passionate about being part of that outreach team because we get this opportunity to educate Air Force personnel out there and how to get it right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chief David, and he's going to take it from here.
Hey, thanks, Melissa. And good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. And that salutation goes out to the warriors, of course, caregivers, family, and friends. So thanks so much for at least participating and staying awake for the very end of the open house. So this is kind of a cool thing. So I'm an ambassador. I'm not an AFW2 staff member. I'm actually active duty Air Force. So basically they're forcing me to do this no, I'm just kidding. It's not against my will. I love the ambassador program. I think what we do is fantastic to get the word out that there are programs and services and support that's available for a lot of folks that have no clue that it even exists. And that kind of hurts my feelings on some level. So I'd like to quickly introduce not just the ambassador, but also the coordinating support programs that are inside of Melissa's section. So I'm going to toss it over to John Fernandez. He's the one that warms my heart in every ambassador talk.
Thanks, Chief. Definitely appreciate that. And you warm my heart as well. I heart you. So like he said, I'm Jonathan Fernandez. I am one of the outreach coordinators for the ambassador program. Served 20 years, 10 days. We're just retired last July, so I'm coming up on 1 year as far as being a veteran. Upon that time, I was looking for, what am I going to do next in the chapter of my life? And all I've known was taking care of airmen and their families. And when I came across AFW2, I was like, this is perfect. This is the same exact responsibilities, except I'm taking care of warriors and their families and helping them shape their stories of resilience so that way they can share their story in hopes of inspiring others, because everyone does have a story to tell. And we're here to help them do that. So thanks a lot, Chief.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to share or comment on any of the ambassador talks that are produced, they air every Tuesday here on the ambassador page, on the AFW2 Air Force Wounded Warrior page. And some of those interviews that we do are so sensitive or pull on the heartstrings so much that they're hard to watch, but they're worth your time. Speaking of people that are worth my time, I'm going to toss it over to Michelle Sanchez, if you'd be so kind to introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, Chief. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Sanchez. I am extremely new to the AFW2 program, but I am definitely loving the job so far. A little bit of background about me. I'm Army. I was also in the Navy as well. So what means so much to me about this program is that when I was transitioning out of the military, I didn't have a program such as this to guide me through that next step, and I was really kind of forgotten, and it's unfortunate, but it happens, right? So since then I've worked with the military and warrior community, and that's what's true to my heart. So I'm definitely glad to be a part of this team, glad to learn, get to know everybody, and hopefully I'll see more of you guys soon. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so Michelle, you're telling me that the Air Force basically brought you home. You did two other completely non-related military branches, but the Air Force found a place for you, right?
Yes, Chief. I've been adopted by the Air Force. I appreciate it.
You're not the only one. We actually have a caregiver on the staff here too. Her name is Ashley. Would you please introduce yourself? She was a one-time AFW2 employee and came right back because this program brought her right back home. Melissa, do we have comms with Ashley today?
I see they're logged in.
Okay.
Stand by.
It's kind of like doing the alley-oop and the ball just rolled off to court and everyone's staring at it.
And you don't have the jokes to fill in the space.
Oh, I've got jokes all day. So I'm only 5'9". I normally start these conversations off with, I'm not very tall, so I'll keep this short. Usually gets a few people smiling. I see Christy Angel. I got her north and south approval. Very good. Marcia Gonzalez is always very easy to make smile. So with that said, we can actually jump over to our other employees that belong to AFW2's Ambassador and Outreach Program. John, help me out with the folks that I can't see on the screen.
Absolutely, Chief. We have with us Caregiver Ambassador Ashley Hibbets and Active Duty Master Sergeant Ashley Mosier.
Hello again, everyone.
And that's what we have, Chief.
That's perfect. And so we have Ashley and Jason Hibbett. They're two. They're both a part of the program. Can you turn your camera sideways so I can see both of you?
Well, he actually is in a meeting, so you get me.
You lied to me. You said you'd both be, but he's here in spirit, and that's what matters. So
Yes.
one of the conversations we had on how to do this open house the right way was to have an ambassador interview the folks that are on the staff. And so I guess my first question, and this will probably get softballed over to Melissa, is why do people care about the ambassador program to begin with?
Thanks, Chief. Well, it's a great opportunity for us to be able to get out there and educate Air Force personnel on what AFW2 is, how it serves our warriors out there, and just overall just bring some reality to the resiliency. So it's a great opportunity to, not only for us as staff members to be able to share, the information on what this program is all about and what services we do provide, but it's a great way for ambassadors to share their stories so that our audience members get that very first-hand perspective on what this program really does for our airmen out there. And so these stories are very inspiring, and they truly, when we say they bring the reality to resiliency, they truly do, because that first-hand perspective is what really helps people understand, what our staff does out there.
I appreciate it, Melissa. And of course, we are marketing this conversation to the people that are watching, but we are also trying to convince the folks that are a part of AFW2 and have not took the leap of faith to potentially be a part of the outreach and ambassador programs. I'll tell you personally, and this is my story, I went to 2 AFW2 events. And they were adaptive sports events, and I thought that they were fantastic. The support was there, and I got the stink eye from Marcia Gonzalez, mostly because she was in my chain of command before. And being a Purple Heart recipient, I was very, very cautious because I did not want to open myself up for feeling that I was weaker than I was. I didn't want to have folks feel bad for my particular situation, but that was me inside my own head. So after a long conversation and a verbal beating from Ms. Gonzalez, of course, Sean Sprayberry called me a series of times over the next 2 or 3 years and convinced me that this was a good thing. This was a good program. And I'll tell you what, I feel ashamed that I was not a part of this program sooner, because I have found so much joy in connecting with ambassadors, hearing their stories, going to ambassador training, and honestly, helping the system help others. So with that said, speaking of a helping agent, there are folks that are a part of this program that do not get paid enough. And I know I razz him all the time, but he doesn't ever fight back. His name's John Fernandez, and he's on the call. And so I need to ask you, John, what makes you continue to do this job and not go job search for something else? Why is this job important to you?
Honestly, one of the greatest joys of my career while serving was being a supervisor, mentor, writing packages, just taking care of airmen and their families. And like I said, when I was getting ready to transition out, I didn't know what I wanted to do until I came in contact with AFW2 at year 19 of my Air Force career. I wish I'd have known about it sooner, but at year 19, better late than never, right? And when I saw what this program did for our warriors and our families and their caregivers, I was just blown away. And I was like, this is the job for me. And the hours at a caravan or even warrior games didn't matter, because to me, it's not a job. Like they always say, find a job that you love and you never work a day in your life. That's exactly where I'm at right now. And that's exactly why I love doing what I do with AFW2.
So as a vehicle, the ambassador program kind of attaches an ambassador and an RCC to events around the Air Force, whether they're virtual or in person. And you've done a number of these, and you've also brought ambassadors with you. For folks that are not familiar with this system and or haven't been an audience member, could either you or Melissa explain how that works?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So how we break that down is, we do what we call outreach events. And so we do it through our staff, here at Randolph, as well as the support of our RCCs out there who are in the field. And so we go all over the Air Force hosting these outreach events, and they're typically a minimum of 30 minutes. So what we'll do is about a 5 to 10 minute program overview by sharing and educating the personnel, the audience members out there on the program in itself, and break it down for them and provide them facts. Then we'll go ahead and turn it over to one of our Wounded Warrior ambassadors who are trained to share their stories. We help them shape through our ambassador workshop. So once they're ready to go, we bring them out in the field with us to conduct these outreach events. And that's the most important aspect of the outreach event. So we will share, like I said, about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll turn it over to that ambassador who will share that story of resiliency for about 15 minutes, roughly. Some of them go about 20 minutes. And that's where the audience really gets the true impact of this program. So once the ambassador is finished sharing that story, then we go ahead and turn it back over to ourselves. We give a quick wrap up, and then we do questions and answers with the audience members.
That's awesome. And so another key point of what you were talking about during that ambassador training, ambassadors that don't even know that they have a message kind of self-discover what it is that they'd like to share with their fellow airmen. So John, you were in my ambassador training in particular. The folks that were in that particular class, what were the feelings that went through as they were going through the stories? Because you were a coach, you were a mentor, and you're also the one that's helping, shaping, and guiding so that they're out there with a purpose. You know, they have a beginning, middle, and end to the story.
So the biggest feeling we get from everybody is that they feel their story is not significant, their story is not important because they weren't combat wounded, or, you know, they're not missing a limb, or, you know, anything for that matter. Their wounds are invisible. And what we try to educate people is, you know, 85% of our enrolled warriors are invisible wounds. You know, they're non-combat related. And we try to tell them your story matters because you never know who in the audience is listening. And as you're sharing their story, they're hearing their own story. And they didn't realize that our program is here for them as well. So that's one of the things we try to emphasize, that your story matters because it is your story to tell. And we definitely empower them to want to share their message with Air Force audiences.
No, that's perfect. And we actually have another ambassador on the call today. It's Ashley Mosier. You went through the training yourself. I think you actually had these feelings when you and I discussed it. You weren't 100% confident that this was going to be a story worth sharing, but you soon discovered that there are so many airmen just like you. There are folks that have been in transition, folks that are not going to be retained for duty, or folks that are retained for duty but have lifelong ailments that will stay with them for years and years. And then that encourages you, of course, and all the other ambassadors to share stories because we can finally connect the dots for folks that can't see the big picture. So Ashley, over to you for your experience with the ambassador program up to now.
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, so as Chief mentioned, I didn't think, you know, my story would impact people, but it actually did. So during my week of training, you not only hear everybody else's story, but you get a chance to tell yours. It's very healing to tell your story. I wasn't expecting that, but it was very healing. It was like a weight off my shoulders, and everybody is so just loving. It's a great loving environment. It's a safe environment. Even though it was virtual, it was just such an amazing experience. And throughout that week, we all got to tell our story. We all got to, you know, be there for one another. I actually had 2 people in my class after I told my story reach out to me because they're actually mentors in the RAMP program. And they said that they had 2 people with similar stories to mine and asked if they could give my information to them, which I thought was amazing. That was like day 3. And then Jonathan actually reached out to me to speak to the 3-5 community, and I got to tell my story to them virtually. And at the very end, somebody on Zoom, in this Zoom, you know, class with a bunch of strangers, actually spoke up, was super brave, and said that she had been going through a lot of things and actually wanted to become a warrior. So just telling my story right there actually reached somebody and touched somebody. And for me specifically, even though, you know, I'm getting ready to medically retire, as an ambassador, I'm still going to be able to have a connection to the Air Force still and tell my story and hopefully give others a voice.
So I like to say that being an ambassador is akin to, and if the preponderance of folks here are or were active duty, guard, or reserve, you know, when your boss gives you an additional duty, like maybe you're the vehicle control officer, or maybe you do mail runs. That's what being an ambassador is, except it's fun, right? It's an additional duty that's fun. And so even if you do medically retire from the Air Force or retire naturally because you were returned to duty, this is an obligation that doesn't feel like an obligation. It's something that you want to give back to, and you only ever feel that way as soon as you become a part of it. So I'll toss it back over to Melissa when we're talking about the ambassador workshop in itself. The last couple have been completely virtual. How do you think it's gone up to this point versus when you were doing it in person?
Hey, Chief, it's been great. We are still able to host our ambassador workshops virtually. I mean, obviously the preferred method is in person, but it's just as effective to do it virtually. So what we do is, we offer these ambassador workshops, and they're really designed for airmen and caregivers who have that true interest to share their testimony of resiliency, recovery, and resurgence among Air Force audiences. And it's definitely for those who want the opportunity to really make a positive impact out there and really help reshape the culture of the Air Force, and just spread that awareness and utilization of our program, and the services that we provide. And so with our ambassador workshop, our airmen are trained to find and shape their story and to engage in a meaningful, in those meaningful conversations and help us, do some media products, interviews and things like that. So our airmen and our caregivers, when they have that ability to share their testimony, and they have that, it's very invaluable. So our ambassador workshops, are truly, life-changing for a lot of our warriors out there. Once, a lot of people are apprehensive to attend, but once our warriors do attend that workshop, it's definitely a life-changing event. They get through that workshop with a new sense of purpose and just really feel eager and excited to get out there and just really help educate Air Force personnel out there.
No, I love it. And there's a plethora of products that are produced out of the Outreach and Ambassador Program. And Melissa turned me on to Ambassador Talk, which is a short segment where ambassadors interview other ambassadors. There's also different social media posts that go out there. Michelle Sanchez, part of the outreach program as well. You're relatively new, but it's kind of exciting getting the feedback from the folks, is it not?
Oh, definitely. As I said, I'm a warrior as well. So I see these beautiful ambassadors telling their story, and everyone's story matters. So being part of the new team and staff, I'm so excited to hear everybody's story. And I'm sure, there are going to be some stories that are really going to just touch my heart and touch those who hear it as well. So yeah, each of us have gone through our own injuries or issues in our military service, transitioning even after as a veteran. So, I've lived through it as well. So I definitely am passionate about what our ambassadors have to say. So yeah, super exciting. And I'm so glad to be part of this program.
Hey, so it's funny because we often think that the warrior is the only one that's going to go through this struggle, right? And that's really not true, especially if you're married or if you have children. And so the caregiver program is also a portion of what it is that Melissa has her overarching scope on. And so we actually have Ashley and Jason Hibbett. Ashley, you are a caregiver yourself. This is not possible without the support of your support system. Obviously, AFW2 is here. There is a camaraderie, there is an alumni, but the family is integral into the healing process. So up to this point, how do you feel being included into this program?
It's great. When we became part of AFW2, I was just whatever Jason needs to heal, I was for it. So when they talked about it, I was like, yeah, let's do it for Jason. And then there was this whole caregiver aspect that I did not even know what I was getting into. And it was so refreshing to feel like I had support, because before that I had times where I felt so completely alone. And so people who had similar stories, who were saying, you know what, we just want what's best for our family. We want what's best for our warrior. It was really nice to finally find that group that we need, that I didn't even know I needed. And so it was life-changing for both of us.
No, that's awesome. And over to you, Jason. So being included in part of this program, I know you just got out of a meeting. Do you think what you guys are doing is having the impact that you want?
I do. When I joined the Air Force almost 20 years ago, I was involved in a lot of stuff and a leader and different things, but it was almost like 16, 17 years before I even heard about AFW2. So just I just really want this program to be shout from the rooftops, because it's a great program.
No, that's awesome. And I'm sure that Melissa has a DFAS allotment going into your paycheck. It'll land on the 1st and the 15th. So thank you very much. So one of the last things we have to talk about, and this, of course, will go back to the Melissa as the director of this program. Ma'am, if you could do me a favor, right? If you were to encourage someone that's paying attention right now that this is worth investing in, this program is worth just, you don't have to do it all the time. You could pop in and be a ad hoc member at large for the ambassador program. You could do one a year, you could do one every 3 years, or you could be as active as you want based off of the needs of the RCC and or the AFW2 staff. What would you say to convince someone that's on the fence that is an AFW2 warrior, or is someone that hasn't signed up by going to woundedwarrior.af.mil and clicking the "You can enroll here" button? How would you convince them that their story is worth sharing?
Well, all I can say is every single warrior out there has a story, and a lot of them kind of second guess themselves whether their story is going to be impactful or not. And I will tell you right now, every single story is just as important as another story. And whether you think it's big or small, a lot of people kind of get intimidated over the fact that, well, I wasn't combat wounded, my story doesn't really matter. But every story has its purpose and has its place. And what I love is that we get ambassadors who come to share their stories with us, where, they share how, they had a positive experience throughout the recovery journey. And we also have those who didn't have such a positive experience. And both stories are equally as important. Like I mentioned, at the beginning, like my why is for those warriors who were kind of left behind, especially those who lacked support from their leadership. And so, I love both sides of the story, where leadership truly got it right and really helped and supported, their airmen through that recovery journey. But I really think it's just as important and just as impactful for those to share when their leadership wasn't there for them, because this is a great opportunity, a great way that we can educate leaders out there and show them how to get it right. We want to show them how you truly do need to take care of your airmen, and it really shows the difference through the stories, how someone's recovery could have been a little more speedy because they received the support, or maybe it just took a lot longer and it was delayed because they didn't have that support. But like I said, if you want to be out there with us and share that story and just really truly, reclaim your voice in the face of adversity, and you'll get not only a weight lifted off your shoulders by sharing that journey. It is healing, but it also, it's liberating, and it's a great way for you to just truly change the culture out there.
Hey, Melissa, I obviously appreciate that answer. And of course, I'm going to look over at John Fernandez for a quick question before we toss it back to you, because we have a very special guest today. We have an ambassador testimony, right?
Yes, sure do.
Okay, fantastic. So again, John, if someone is interested in putting their story out there, but maybe they want to do it on Facebook, maybe they're more comfortable behind the camera like we're doing right now, and they'd like to get featured in an upcoming ambassador talk, how do they do that?
Well, that's a great question. It's really simple. They can shoot us a message to our org box. You can inbox us on our Facebook pages, or just text us and say, hey, I want to, be able to share a little bit of my story with Chief David because he's so cool on you guys' ambassador talk, because he makes us all look great. And I was like, you know what? You're right. We're going to make that happen for you.
I appreciate that, John. I will owe you some money in the near future as well. So Melissa, obviously, thank you for the opportunity to interview the staff. Did we miss any staff members that are not available to show their face on camera, or are they hiding right now from us?
You definitely hit everybody that's on the call today. We do have one new staff member that just started with us this week. We have Lisa Taylor, who is a returning AFW2 employee, and we're so excited to have her as part of the team as well. And I know all of you out there, especially those of you that are interested in joining our ambassador workshop in the future, will get the opportunity to meet her as well. But we are very excited, to have such a great team. And thank you, JD. Thank you for interviewing all of us.
No, it's good, and it's my pleasure. So I'd like to share just one quick anecdotal story with you guys before I toss it back over to Melissa for the next ambassador interview. Just imagine this is an ambassador talk that's truncated into at least 60 seconds. So I am an Air Force wounded warrior, like the preponderance of folks on the call. I was hit with a rocket propelled grenade. It hurt me pretty bad, busted both of my shoulders, my spine, and both of my hips. I was in a pretty bad place for a very long time, but I had the support and the healing nature that is my family to help me get back into shape to stay in the Air Force. over the course of 7 or so surgeries, whether pain in my back or adjustments to my hips or them chopping off pieces of my shoulders, I felt like I was going to give up at every surgery, at every time. But I didn't, because I had weird people in my life, like at the time, Master Sergeant, then Senior Master Sergeant Sean Sprayberry, who did not give up on me. That's what I feel as I don this blue shirt and this AFW2 moniker that's right here with the logo. This family is truly that. Whether you're active duty or if you retire or medically separate or medically retire, this is everlasting. That people are paid to come to work and work for AFW2. They are not paid to care, but they do. So my hat's off to you folks. Thank you so much for letting me participate, and I love you all.
Hey, thank you, Chief. And just to kind of give some parting words, I just want to really encourage those out there that are interested in the ambassador program. It's for warriors and caregivers who are interested in sharing their story. Like I said a little earlier, it's for those who are in a good place within that recovery journey and willing to share their story in front of audiences out there. And so you can be an ambassador through a couple different ways. When those emails come out with that CVent link, you can apply for one of our workshops. You can also contact us directly at afpc.dpfw.ambassadorworkflow. We're on the global, and we can share that with you in the chat as well. And, just reach out to us. You can also be nominated by your RCC or your care management team. And, so that's another great way that our ambassadors are identified to attend our workshop. But we really hope to see you there. You can also call me directly, and I'll put my phone number in the chat as well. And we'd be happy to get you started, get your application going, and have you join our workshop. So thank you all for listening. But before we part ways today, we want you to have the opportunity to hear exactly what our ambassadors are doing out there by hearing a story. So we have one of our Wounded Warrior ambassadors here with us today. It's Senior Airman Retired Austin Cassidy, who's going to share his story of resiliency. So take it away, Austin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Like Melissa said, my name is Austin Cassidy. Temporarily retired right now. I'm on TDRL, which for those of you who don't know, it's temporary disability retirement list, where I have to go through evaluations once a year to see if I'm going to be fit for duty or on my way to permanent retirement. And I would like you all to hear my story so everyone can really understand how impactful this program truly is. From the beginning, I joined the Air Force in 2016. I was top PT in my flight at basic training. I was extremely healthy. Eventually, I went on to tech school as a 2 Alpha 9, did electronic warfare, and I got stationed at Tinker Air Force Base. At Tinker, I made some friends pretty quick, and I met a girl who really enjoyed playing tennis, as did I. So her and I decided to join a USTA tournament, which is a tennis tournament, and we won a gold medal. And that was in the summer of 2017, and that was the last time that I was healthy. I was out in the flight line with my sergeant, and him and I were picking up equipment. Well, I thought that I slipped a disc or threw my back out, wasn't really sure. I had sharp pain when I started to lift up the equipment. Pain went from my fingertips, through my arms, down my back, my head, legs, and into my toes. I didn't know what I did, thought I threw my back out, wasn't really sure. So he immediately noticed that something was wrong. He pointed that out to me. He said, "Hey, you need to relax, step away from the job, and take a break." Well, a few days went by, I started feeling better. And him and I went to PT, and he was on the other side of the gym. And I was doing skull crushers on the bench, just lifting the dumbbells. And he heard my bones cracking from the other side of the gym. He had his headphones in, so it was pretty loud. He came over and he said, "Hey, are you okay?" He came over and said, "You really do need to go and get some help. Go to the doctor." And I really appreciated that. He checked in on me the entire time. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a central nervous system disorder that causes pain throughout the entire body. Well, around the same time, I was also telling the doctors at the MTF that I was having chest pains. I was having sleeping issues. And they were, no, that's just some symptoms of fibromyalgia. And I was like, no, it's not. I need help. I need to get these things checked out to make sure that I'm okay. Well, a couple of years went by, and in the summer of 2019, I got diagnosed with type 2 narcolepsy. And right when that happened, I was coming up due to have chemical warfare training. And my supervisors said, hey, you should probably have your doctor write in your waiver, in your profile, stating that you cannot perform this training exercise, especially because you're a narcoleptic, you have fibromyalgia, and guess what? Had an unknown heart condition that I was being tested for at that time. And I don't want to put other people's lives in danger, because if I went through that training and I had an incident, then everyone else had to stop and help me, especially when it's Oklahoma, it's 110 degrees in the summer, 60% humidity. It's not very safe. And there was already enough precautions anyway. Well, I wrote the letter to the doctor. He called me. He said, oh yeah, your heart condition, it's unknown, so you have to go through the training. I'm not going to put it on your waiver. I'm not going to put it on your profile. Well, what he didn't realize was that I was sitting in the cardiologist appointment about to find out what my diagnosis was. The nurse walks in, and he's on the phone yelling at me, telling me, no, it's an unknown condition. You'll be all right. There's no reason for me to write this in there. I said, hold on, sir. I'm about to find out what the diagnosis is. And the nurse came up, and so I read the list of the diagnosis. And there were several things on there, but two things stood out. One being cardiomyopathy, and the other being stage 2 chronic systolic heart failure. I was 24 at the time. It's big news. And all he had to say was, I'm so sorry, and then hung up the phone. That was it. And for a long time, I was not on the flight line because of my conditions. My supervision didn't want me to put my life at risk any more than it already was. But that meant that I sat around a lot at work. I would go to debriefs, talk to air crew, get ready for whatever mission task we had to get done. And then I would help teams out, give advice, and they would go out to the flight line. And that was it. I would sit around and wait for the team to come back. Well, I didn't really like that. I felt useless. I felt wasted. And that's just not who I am as a person. Well, one day my flight chief came in, and she sat down with me and asked me what I was going to do when I got out of the service. And I told her, I said, my dream in life is to travel the world. I want to go to Asia, Australia, Europe, Africa, South America. I want to see everything that this world has to offer. And she actually told me about her stories of traveling through Europe and gave me advice. And I was like, that's awesome. And I really appreciated that. My supervision constantly checked on me and asked me how I was doing. And a lot of people don't have that experience. But at the end of that conversation, I told her that I felt like I was being wasted. I felt useless. I felt like I could give more to the Air Force. And so I asked her, hey, can I train full time? And she said, all right, hold on, give me a second. And she left the room, made some phone calls, and she came back in. And I was on mids at the time. And it was around 2 a.m. She came in, walked up to me and said, hey, report to work at 5 a.m. on Monday. So, okay. So I did. Well, we started a training flight. And so I was able to give my knowledge and my expertise to everyone that came through our unit. And I trained people that were lower than me in rank and higher than me in rank. And I felt really good about myself. And there were people out there who really appreciated that. And I was able to develop programs for the Air Force that are still used to this day. And that is awesome. That is something that really made me feel like, hey, this is a turning point in my life. And this is going to be huge for me mentally, made me feel great. Well, I got out of the service in the beginning of 2020, and we all know what happened. COVID. Fun. All my traveling around the world plans thrown out the window. And the CDC said that with my conditions, I had to stay inside. And so I did, like everyone else did. Well, eventually I thought to myself, you know what, I want to travel. I can't travel around the world, so I decided to travel around the US. I went to a bunch of national parks. I drove from Ohio, which is where I'm currently at, all the way out to the Grand Canyon, to Yellowstone, Grand Teton, the Badlands, Black Hills, and Mount Rushmore. Saw all these things, and it was absolutely amazing. And one of the experiences that I had that was another amazing turning point for me was I did a hiking trail where it was supposed to be an hour-long walk up Black Elk Peak in the Black Hills. It took me about 6 hours because I was in pain. I couldn't move very fast, but there was this elderly lady and she had 2 walking canes. And I was about 5 minutes from the top, and I was shocked to see her. And I was so impressed, and I had to ask her, I was like, ma'am, what are you doing? And she said that she does this once a year, every year, to see if she can still do it, to see if she can still get up there. And that just motivated me even more. And you might be wondering where the Air Force Wounded Warrior program comes into play. Well, I told them about this trip. They had checked on me constantly, all the time, asking me how I was doing, how my trip went, how I was doing with my living situation, if I was about to go to school, if I was about to buy a home, or needed help with my temporary retirement situation. It was constant. It felt like that family connection never left. And that is something that a lot of veterans and people who go through medical situations just get left. But this program brings us all together, and that is truly impactful. And now life is good, and I want to be able to help people and spread the word, and that's what this program does. And I'm very thankful for it, and thankful for all of you.